Welcome everybody that has joined us tonight. As Alex has already said, this is going to cover the application process. So I'm expecting all of you that have applied to be the finest applications that we get. You're going to get the inside track on the sort of thing we're looking for to be successful with this fund. So you see there on the screen, obviously you've got my name and my contact details. I work part-time, but my phone is always on. So if you do need to get hold of me at any time, make a note of that number, or you can see the email address as well. Would you like to move on, please, Al? Okay, I work the Angling Improvement Fund team. There's a pair of us that work together. Chloe's the administrator. She's worked for the Angling Trust longer than me. She's got quite a lot of experience of this fund. She's very good at her job, and you'll find if you have any problems with the form, just technical issues, problems logging on, that sort of thing, Chloe is brilliant, and she will have no issues with helping you out. She works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Again, if you make a note of that, AIF@anglingtrust.net, that's obviously our email inbox. And if you don't get a response, we both monitor it, but you should get a response. If she's not there Friday, you'll certainly get a response by Tuesday if I don't see it before. Next slide, please, Al. Okay, so a little bit about the Angling Improvement Fund. As you can see, I'm not going to repeat what's written on the screen in front of you, or at least I'm going to try not to. But we are given this money by the Environments Agency, and it comes from rod license sales, as you can see there. So people, when they don't buy a license, they are actually penalising themselves as anglers, because so much of that money is ploughed back in to projects that help us all out that enjoy angling. As you see at the bottom, £7.55 million, and the total value of the projects that have gone through this Angling Improvement Fund. Next. Okay, so the fund focuses on predation, and the reason I put that is previously we have covered other areas, but it is now the priority, or a high priority at the moment, is the issues caused by predation, and that comes from cormorants and otters in particular. Where I live in Sussex, our part of the world, we're lucky we haven't yet been affected by otters, but since being involved with the Angling Trust and with doing this job, I've started to see you know, the decimation that can cause to waters. So this is something we can give back with non-lethal methods to help you protect your fisheries. In view of the fact that this only covers predation, you'll see at the bottom, the Environments Agency also runs another fund called the Fisheries Improvement Project, known as the FIP, you might have heard of. It's been running quite a few years. So sometimes we get a bit of confusion as people think they've applied to one fund and they've actually applied to the other. So the FIP, the Fisheries Improvement Project, it can be used on a wider range of fishery related matters, such as building platforms and footpaths and disabled swims. The AIF, the Angling Improvement Fund, used to cover that, but as I say, is now purely, this particular fund is purely on predation. So if you were to have a project that doesn't fit predation, you can of course apply to the Fisheries Improvement Project when it's open. And the reason I labour that point in particular is we do come across a fair bit of confusion where people think they've applied to one and they've actually applied to the other, or they're waiting for a response from one and they're actually applied to the EA instead of us. So obviously we'll guide you in the right direction, but that's a fairly important point that does come up quite regularly. Next, please. Okay, well, the good news is the fund is now open and we have £100,000 to start with. That money can increase. Last year it increased quite considerably as the year went on. The reason why we can't give you exact figures of what it will finish at is because it is dependent, again, what I mentioned earlier, it's dependent on license sales. So the more people you can get buying licenses, the bigger the fund is likely to be. Again, I believe after or during COVID, well, I don't believe, I know that we sold a lot more licenses. There was quite a bit more money available. That figure has gone down again. Can't give you the exact figures. So I would predict it's unlikely that we're going to have that 207,000 available again this year. but I would be hopeful that we will have more than the 100,000 that has currently been released and was released earlier this month. Next, please. Right, so the applications are limited to £5,000. The reason for that is the popularity. We are always oversubscribed. We will get a lot of applications for this. They come into us thick and fast at the beginning, and then we have a bit of a lull, and then we get panic stations at the end when people start submitting their applications very near the closing date. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we move through the slides. The judging panel is not, I'm not on the judging panel. I'm purely there to administrate it. So my opinion on your form is nothing you ever to take personally. I will just be able to advise you as to the best ways of getting your application in front of the judges in a way that really sells your project. So if you ever need help with that, like I said, you have my phone number at the beginning, and I can give you some guidance. And again, we'll go through that as we move through these slides. If you don't mind doing that, please, Alex, one more. Thank you. Some fairly straightforward information there, as you would expect. We cannot pay money into someone's personal bank account. Now, that might seem obvious to some of you. Obviously, we'd rather, we need to pay a club or an official organisation. But the reason why that is so important is quite often we'll get to a point of making a payment, or we have in the past had this more than once, and people don't have that, they don't have the bank account set up. So then they've got to go through all the process of getting signatories, etc. So if you are applying, make sure at the beginning, or very near the beginning, that you've got a account that we can pay into, rather than us saying, well done, you've got the money, and then we run into this hurdle. The fund, as it says there, closes on May the 6th, which seems a long way off, but there's quite a lot of information that needs to go into the form, and quite a lot of skills that you need to demonstrate through the form between now and May the 6th. So I encourage you to get started on it as soon as possible if any of you are considering applying. Next, please. Okay, so how to apply. So obviously on the Angling Trust website, if you go through the freshwater tab, which you can see at the bottom right hand picture there on the screen, it's highlighted. And then on the very bottom left where it says funding, you go into the funding tab, and it will bring up the funds that are open. So for example, if the Fisheries Improvement Project was open at the same time as ours, there would be the two icons for you to select. So ours is quite clear, saying Angling Improvement Fund. We have another fund that runs intermittently through the year called the Get Fishing Fund. And again, sometimes people do get confused. And as I said earlier, they think they've applied for something and they've applied to the wrong one. And that can be frustrating. So make sure when you click in the tab, you're clicking the right one, because there's nothing more annoying than having to do it all again. There's no way we can transfer your information over. So it's important you get it in the right square and the right fund that you're applying for. And again, if there's any confusion or you're not sure, you can always contact us and we can point you in the right directions. We don't take paper applications. That used to happen quite a few years ago. We occasionally get asked, can I submit a PDF? Can I submit? It all has to go through this application process, grant management system that runs through the website. When you go into that, you will need to create a login and a password. Now, it's important because this is not your login and password as being a member of the Angling Trust. This is something separate to that. So if you're logging into the Angling Trust website, you will use your personal number if you're a personal member. If you are making an application, you are creating a new login and password. So that login might be your email address, and obviously your password will be relevant to whatever you choose. But it's important that people know the difference between the two. Again, we get quite a few people saying, I can't log on. And what it is they are using their membership to try and get into the grant application process. Again, any problems, Chloe can help you out with that, but it's something to save you time and to save you swearing at your computer, which is what tends to happen when people get stuck. So next one, please. Okay, I've made that in red for a reason. And you could probably guess what that reason is. An awful lot of people don't read the guidance note. So It says they're essential tips for success, and they are essential. You do need to read the guidance notes. I reiterate, you will be oversubscribed. It is a competitive application process, and it is scored accordingly. So at the top there, about contacting your local fishery management advisor. So the Angling Trust employs 2 FMAs, fishery management advisors, who we'll have a look at shortly. And they are experts in the field of predation management and advising you on projects. So we require that you have made contact with them, and they will go, 9 times out of 10, they'll come and visit you. Sometimes it'll be done over the phone, but generally they will come and pay you a visit, and they will give you advice on what they think the best scheme is for you to take forward. It says they don't leave it too late, they're busy, and that is very true. As you can imagine, towards the end, as we get near May the 6th, which is the closing date, we get a lot of people who have left it late, and they're asking the management of our FMAs to go and visit them, and there's only, like, you know, a week to go. Now, I'll say there's only 2, one for the north and one for the south. So if you are applying, get their details, take them tonight, they'll come up shortly, get in contact with them and get them out. You'll find their advice is top, it's a top class level of their qualifications, etc. They're very experienced, and we regularly get comments saying, you know, do you know what, they advise something we've never even thought of, different solutions that might actually be cheaper or more effective for your fishery. So I really can't stress that enough. There's also lots of useful advice available on the freshwater tab, as it says. So if you go into our website, dig down, you'll find information on how to deal with cormorants. You'll find videos on, you know, otters and various predation matters. There's instructional and reading matter in there. So do make use of it. It's very good material, and I suggest you take a look, possibly before you even put your application in. Next, please. Okay, so here is the first of our 2 fisheries management advisors. As you can see, Richard Bamforth, very efficient individual, very knowledgeable, and you see there is phone number. On my screen, it's slightly cut out at the bottom. I don't know if you can do anything about that, probably not, Alex, so I might read that out, which is 07904 041 518. Richard covers, as it says, the northern area. Get hold of him ASAP if you are in the north of England. And the next, please. And there's Jake, obviously covers the southern area, and I actually can't see his number at all. Are you able to bring that up at all, Alex? Probably not.
I think it's viewable for most people. Andy, if anyone can't say, please put something in the chat. I'm happy to read it out if anyone can't for the moment, and that is 07949 703 206. I think most people should be able to see it. If you can't, just let us know.
Thanks, Alex. I'll have a word with the Angling Trust about the laptop they're giving me. So yeah, Jake covers the south. Again, very knowledgeable, degree in fisheries management, I believe, and nice, amiable guy. He's got, again, a great deal of experience. I know he knows an awful lot about cormorant matters in particular, and spends a lot of time sitting in tents watching otters. So if you want to know about what otters do at night when you've gone home and you finish fishing, Jake will be able to tell you, and you get some very interesting film footage, which obviously adds to the evidence for people that are making applications. Okay, next, please. Okay, a little bit about the application form then. Every question needs to be answered. If it is a not applicable, you need to put not applicable. I would push you, where possible, to give as much detail as you possibly can. Remember, you're up against other people, so 3 words to answer a question it probably isn't going to cut it against other applications. Give yourself time. I know, again, of people that are leaving it literally the last day. I've had phone calls on Friday from about another fund, people ringing me at 3:30, you know, asking me, leaving it an hour and a half till the fund shuts. So don't do that, especially on this, because it is so oversubscribed. If you've got quotes for the work, there's a way of uploading it all. As it says, there's pictures as well that you can give as evidence. The more detail you can show the judges, the more information. So try and keep it concise. and clear, but the more information that you can give them, the better chance you have. It's all about really showing the judges that A, you have got an issue, and B, you know, what your realistic plan is about dealing with it, taking into account what the FMAs have told you. We've just seen. Next, please. Okay, as you go through the application form, our new grant management system allows us to provide links. Last year, if you opened a link, it took you out of your application. So I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been when you were filling it out. So now, as you open the links, they will pop up into separate windows, so you can keep your application going and refer to the links, pop back across to the form, back to the links. And we've put links, rather than big documents and more wording, that they are within the links. So if you want to know about how to do a risk assessment, Alex ran a very good forum on it not too long ago. We've got a link to that, and you can learn more about that and what relevant regulations may apply. Obviously, you have to do some of that work yourself, but we will guide you in the right direction. I mentioned about not ignoring the expert advice, but that is particularly the case if you are installing it yourself. Because if I learn sometimes when people install their, for example, otter fences, if it's not done properly, you can do the whole place, and if you leave a gap, all that work is wasted and otter can get in. So get Jake and Richard to guide you, point the best areas and the best way of laying it out, and listen to what they say. With regards to maintenance, a number of our applications over the years, and one of our biggest contacts we get is about maintenance, and the FMAs have told me this. Once the fence is in, that's not the end of it. You do need to keep on top of, and again, I'm referring more specifically to an otter fence in this instance, but you do need to keep on top of it. Otters can climb trees. So if you've got overhanging branches that you haven't maintained or cut back, people suddenly wonder how an otter's got in. It's about plant growth around. I won't go into too much detail about it, but what you need to be able to do in your application is to be able to show the judges that you've got a bit of a maintenance plan and that you're able to deliver it. You're really trying to get across in those 9 little short questions that you are able to deliver a workable project, whether it be fish refuges, whatever the case may be, and that you are going to look after it. Because just given the money and it looks good for a year, it's all right for the second year. By year 3, it looks run down or it's falling apart. Show how you're going to think about, at least show how you're going to think about maintaining it, whether it be regular checkups or, you know, a monthly tick book or something. And that would also be the case with risk assessments. If you keep a record of the sort of things you're doing, just to show to the judges that you've got a positive project and you're confident that you can deliver it. The budget page is another one that is vital. It needs to be able to show the judges that basically that it adds up. So if someone has got 5 grand in their account, they're applying for 5 grand and the project's 30,000, that isn't a fund that the judges will look on as deliverable, because it's obviously £20,000 short. So there are ways of boosting your budget, which we will talk about. But if you're struggling with the budget page, do give me a call, give Chloe a call, email us. Don't rush it. If it doesn't make sense, I refer you to the red writing earlier. Read the guidance note. There's an example in there of the way it to be filled out. There is also the costings for labour and for skilled workers. I often get calls asking, how do we price this? And it's all in the guidance notes if you read it. Move on, please. So judges looking for a 50% contribution. That sounds a lot, but it doesn't have to be in cash. Obviously, we prefer it to be cash, but there is in-kind payments as well. Again, that's explained in the guidance notes. And that could be the case of members lending their time. Labour, you may have a guy that drives a digger. And as these people, as their contributions are detailed on the form, it builds up your contribution. So it may be that you're asking for 4,500, you're putting in 3,000, but you've actually got in-kind payments of 5,000-6,000. So now you're well over the 50% contribution. Much of it depends on how you're delivering your project. And I know in particular with fish refuges, they are often done by the club themselves, pretty much all with the labour of the membership. So that is a really good way of boosting it. And again, I can help you if you are having difficulty with the budget form, but it does need to be reflected. So often people will fill out a good application and the budget, they really do fall down quite considerably on the budget, and that's a real shame, because their application is good and it's warranted and it's needed, but they're just, if they fall down on the budget, it's very hard for judges to, you know, hand out cash without seeing a solid financial background to what they're doing. So about future plans for your club. They like to see that the club actually has, well, it says there a development plan, but a forward-thinking club. Where are they actually going? Are you just saying we want an otter fence, thanks, see you later? Or is the otter fence actually part of a bigger structure? Is your protecting your silverfish, is that going to give you chances to run junior matches that you can't hold at the moment because catches are so low? Is it going to provide new members? Perhaps you might hold events to say, come and see what we've done at the club. Do you hold open days? Any sort of new projects. Councillors are often interested in coming down. They're always looking for a picture for their leaflets. Why not get them down? You never know, you might find some other funding streams through the local councils. But just demonstrating that your organisation or club has a bit of a plan, and just tell us a little bit, tell the judges a little bit about where you're going and what sort of things you might have in the future. Next, please. Okay, so as you use the application form, once you click the submit button, that is it, your application is closed and it is submitted to us. I mean, if that happens by accident, you know, we might be able to reverse it, but you can keep dipping in and out of it. So along the bottom of the screen, you've got numbers 1 to 9 with the questions. You can go and answer question 5, go back to question 3, but just to tell you, you need to put something in each box. So if you cannot move on to section 5 because you haven't finished section 4, you may just want to put a letter A in each of the boxes in section 4, then answer question 5. Then you can still go back to section 4 and then put the word in and the information. It might be uploading a picture, for example, some evidence, or you might have got some costings that you might want to add, or you might have some more information about the project and how you're going to do the maintenance. So you don't have to work throughout the process of the application form from 1 to 9, but to move on to the next screen, you will need to have something in each box or the system won't let you go through. Once it's done, it will obviously go through. Once it's finished, May the 6th, everything will go through to the judges and they will score all the applications, and successful applicants will be notified. But you will need to sign terms and conditions that you will need to adhere to. And then it's just a case of returning the acceptance form, acknowledging that you accept the terms and conditions, and then payment will be made into the bank account that we discussed earlier, which is not a private bank account, and your project's good to go. Next, please. It's a lovely fish, isn't it? That pretty much covers it for the application process. Thanks for listening. I welcome your questions now. I see there's 3. I don't know whether they're questions that you've already answered, Alex, but anything you'd like to know, fire away. And I'd also, as it says along the bottom, although I can't see it, do keep an eye on our funding page because other funds come up. Now, this particular AIF is about predation. Later in the year, I know that we have at least £50,000. I'm very hopeful that we have £50,000 for biosecurity and invasive non-native species. So that might be that you've got an issue with floating pennywort, giant hogweed, killer shrimp, etc. Again, all the information is on that freshwater tab, and that fund will be opening. We're not 100% certain yet, but it will be opening in May sometime. Can't give an exact date. So keep an eye out for that as well. And of course, if you know anyone who has issues with biosecurity or you want some advice, we do have, again, 2 officers employed that will go out and give you advice on the biosecurity matters. So that's me done.